Mario Kart World has been out for a while now, and surprisingly, people have come around on it more than I expected. The main point of contention for the game, the intermissions, are slowly being seen in a more positive light. I've been loving watching the intermission revolution going around, and even if some of them are still not that great, most of them are considered at least okay. However, that gives way to other aspects of the game being criticized easier, which leads us to the topic of today's video. Mario Kart World's items have also been a topic of discussion, especially among competitive players, and their impact on the race can often be seen as unfair, even more so than usual for Mario Kart standards. And I am inclined to agree, a lot of these items could use some work. So, in this video, I'm going to do exactly that, and list some changes these items could benefit from. Anywhere from annoying items being toned back, to adjusting the probabilities, and even changing some global stuff. Subscribe if you enjoy, and let's modify items. Before going over some item-specific changes, we need to go over a couple things that will now be applying globally, starting with bringing back the ability to see what items people are holding. This was such a nice quality of life feature in Mario Kart 8 that even made its way to other kart racers. And it also allows you to play around items so much better. No more getting surprised by a random super hauling. This change will also apply for evolving items. Now there will no longer be a desync for them, and you won't have a situation where someone still has the red shells but you can't see them. Seriously, why did they change that? Alright, that's all the global changes I would like to do. Now let's get into some specifics. Not every item will get changes in this video, because a few of them are honestly fine as is, but most of them will have at least one change, of varying severities. Not to mention some items are actually not being changed directly, it's just that their pull rates and probabilities are not going to be the same. We'll be visiting this chart on screen quite a bit, so let's get to them. Starting with a pretty basic change, we got triple bananas. Single bananas are perfectly fine as they are, but I want to do one small change to the triples revolving around you, which is making them revolve closer to you. This makes them better at protecting you from incoming attacks, but also makes them worse at just ramming into people with them. Leave the offensive use of the shells. Speaking of shells, all of them will have some changes. In Mario Kart Wii, throwing a shell backwards will actually give it a little bit of your forwards momentum before going back, and they will only travel backwards at around half of their speed. We're carrying that over for all variants of green and red shells. It's pretty annoying when someone backs a shell and it's completely unreactable, so this way you're less likely to get destroyed by one of those. Speaking of unreactable, red shells will also move slightly slower when moving forwards. It won't be as slow as the ones in Mario Kart Wii, but you often have unreactable scenarios with them, so that's why it's getting adjusted. We're also removing single reds from the 11th to 14th place pool, which I don't really understand why patch 1.6 did that. It just makes it very annoying to be in this position sometimes, so let's not do that. Triple red shells will get some additional changes, though those lie in the item probabilities. We're removing from the 3rd place item pool because I can't tell you how many races have been ruined by this one item alone, and nobody likes that. We're also reducing the probability of pulling them across the board. Not by a ridiculous amount, since patch 1.6.0 already helps it a bit I feel, but a little bit more would be nice. You might have noticed that when I talked about the shell throwing backward speed, I didn't mention the coin shell. That's because the coin shell will not be affected by this change. Due to the nature of this item, you're often way more incentivized to throw it forwards, so giving you an incentive to throw it back offensively sounds really cool. Especially because of how shiny it is, it'll be really easy to notice from far away. This pairs really well with the other change the coin shell will get, which is on what positions it can they pull. None of this 18th place coin shell BS. We're moving it all the way to 4th as the highest pull, and the lowest pull will now be in 10th. This actually makes it fairly realistic to be your best quote-unquote speed item from an item set, without necessarily being stuck in the chaos hard enough to not get that much value. And it also means you're likely to be in a high enough position that throwing it backwards offensively can actually get some crazy value. As a bit of a bonus, let's make these shell items work more like they do in the actual Mario games. If you land on a shell, you'll bounce on it, similar to a typical head bounce, instead of getting hit. Useful to dodge green shells coming your way if you can react in time, but it can still screw you over in tight scenarios. And red shells will still follow you in the air, so no free dodging. The shells themselves will remain in whatever state they're on when you bounce. This last change won't actually affect the last shell that we haven't talked about. Of course, that being the blue shell. Truth be told, I made this list of changes before 1.6.0, and in that list I mentioned how the blue shell was way too common. But the patch reduced the odds quite a bit, so I don't think it needs more reduction. What does need reduction is the stun frames, however. It should still be the strongest hit in the game, but the stun goes a little too long that oftentimes it's better to go out of bounds than to take the hit, which is a little too much, so it's getting reduced. Your character can still do the flips in the air, but the stun afterwards should be reduced a bit. Also, the moment it locks on to first place, it should lose its travel hitbox, because it can opt to kill the person in second place surprisingly easily. But these two are pretty minor changes. The real problem with the blue shell is that you never want to wait the unlucky person to actually pull it, since it doesn't really benefit you. But I had a really cool idea on how to mitigate it. My idea is that once the blue shell is thrown, it will create star rings along the path. That's right, we're combining it with the star ring item from Mario Kart Tour. It does benefit other people around you as well, but not only does the boost not stack with their speed items, they also still have to worry about the blue shell itself hitting them. So it can become a bit of a risk-reward kind of deal. But for you, there is no risk. Just take those boosts. I guess the coin shell change unintentionally pairs well with this next change. Coins are slightly less likely to be pulling first and second. And I do mean slightly. You're still realistically going to pull them most of the time, but you can pull actual defense a little more often. Coins can also get an indirect buff via another item, the boo. It always sucks when you use a boo, hoping to get some decent item and all you steal is a coin. So we're removing that. Boo already has a list of items it can't steal, so adding a coin onto that list isn't the worst thing in the world. Boo's positions will also be adjusted. Since Boo in third is frankly a bit ridiculous, you can have it in fourth as a really rare pull, but third is too much. We can also maybe put it in the 11th to 14th pool as well, but I'm not sure how necessary that'll be. Another item that you can also pull in third, the Kamek Orb. I actually quite like this item myself, and adjusting its pull positions could end up with more bad than good. So we will get a simple change. Kamek's travel speed is faster. I really like using it strategically when people are going for hard shortcuts just to screw them over, and this change will make it a little easier to do that. But you still have to account for the startup time. An item you could originally pull starting in third place, but was recently allowed to sneak into second place, hammers. It can be really annoying to see the arc flying at you with nothing you can do about it. So one of its changes is making the travel arc slightly slower. Not enough to make it unusable, but it allows you to play around them a little bit better. They will also finally protect you from behind, though you will need to throw them backwards once to do that. And the hammer will shift its position once you do to go into defense mode. Now let's talk about an item I'm surprised is still in the game, the blooper. I would love to just remove it from the game frankly, but that's not really an option. We can buff the ink a little bit so it's more effective on competent players, even if the newbies already struggle with it and it will be even harder for them to deal with. But the big important change is to its traction loss effect. It'll now match that of the rain after a shock. So a lot of shortcuts will be noticeably more difficult under the bloopers effect. Similar to the Kamek change, this aims to have more strategic value for the user. Let's shift our focus to some comeback items for a moment. The golden mushroom will only get a quality of life change that doesn't actually really affect the gameplay. There will now be a buffer window when mashing. It always feels very icky to me when I press a few frames early and don't get an extra boost. Even if I can't just boost right away after, so it doesn't really change anything. But I think game feel is really important, so I want to change that still. Oh boy, now for my least favorite comeback item, the Mega Mushroom. First of all, Nintendo, where the fuck is my Mega Music? Where the hell is my Whimsy? Bring it back. Anyway, once the item gets going, it'll be the same, but getting going will be a little bit different. You can no longer hurt other players during the growing animation, only once you're fully big. Said growing animation will also take slightly longer to complete, so you won't be surprised destroyed by someone using a Mega Mushroom right after a golden nets to you. Oh, wait, did I just make the Crossworld's monster truck again? One last comeback item to talk about, the Bullet Bill. Originally, I was just going to say it speeds up during hyperspeed sections in Starview Peak, Bowser's Castle and Rainbow Road, but it seems like Nintendo beat me to the punch in that. But they also added a few more changes that I was not expecting. That being the ability to steer better and be more flexible with shortcuts. Some people say it might be a little overtuned now, but I think it's perfectly fine. You can only pull it in bottom spots after all. Only 25% of the races can pull it. And there is a limit of how many there can be. And it's still not an ideal pulling a bunch of tracks. And some bullet extensions got nerfed too. So I would say, let it be strong. If you really want something, you can compromise a little bit on the steering between the old and new, but I don't even think that's necessary. Alright, let's talk about the three big ones. The most hated items in the game, the flowers. I was originally going to say Boomerang for last, since it was easily the most complained about item in the game, but the recent patch made some really good changes to it. But there's still work to be done. You still get this item way too frequently, so we're losing the odds a bit. The last throw having practically infinite range is also really stupid, so we're losing that too. It still has more range than the other two throws, so you can use it for that, but it won't be as ridiculous. Also, the fact that this item has homing is extremely stupid. Please get rid of that dumb mechanic. Now for the other two, the fire and ice flowers. The only difference they have right now that isn't cosmetic is what position you can pull them in. Ice flowers can be pulled in 3rd, and fire flowers can be pulled from 11 to 14. Every position in between them is shared between the two, and the items behave the exact same. So let's make them behave very differently. The fire flower will be removed from the 11th to 14th pool, only 10th or above now. Should make the game a little less chaotic. But the way it lobs its fireballs will be a little different. You can now only throw a maximum of 6 fireballs, not 8, and you can't spam them anymore. Pressing L will make you throw 2 fireballs at a time, then have a short cooldown before you can throw 2 more. This forces you to be a little more calculated with your throws, but you still have quite a lot of shots that can ruin people's days if you play your cards right, and it reduces spam. I chose 2 at a time because, of course, that's how it's always worked in the mainline Mario games. As for the Ice Flower, this one still keeps its 8 throws, and you can still spam them, but the change lies in the effect that happens when you get hit by them, as they will no longer spin you out when getting hit. Instead, you will of course get iced. This will make your traction terrible for a few seconds, like even worse than the worst handling vehicle in the game. So you'll be taking turns extremely wide, are very liable to hitting obstacles or falling off, and overall will be very slow. As the user, it's not about aiming your shots, but about when you land them, which will make a very drastic difference in how you use both this and the Fire Flower. I can imagine this being brutal on places like the Airship Fortress Spiral or the top section of Driver's Burnout. And there you have it. All item changes I would personally like to see in Mario Kart World. To put it into perspective, here's the full chart as it currently stands in the game, and here's the new one I'm suggesting. Quite a few changes here, and that's not even covering the changes in probability and behavior. But I really think the game will be in a better state with all this. Anyways, that's it for this video. I'm still happy with the state of Mario Kart World as a whole right now, but I really think these item changes will go a long way to make this game more enjoyable for everyone. Huge shoutouts and thanks to my friends Luna and Calliope for helping me bounce off ideas and keeping things in check. Did you find the ideas cool? Are there flaws with how I handle them? Or how would you have done it differently? Let me know in the comments. Before I leave, I would like to quickly apologize for the lack of videos lately. Life's been busier, there's been other games I want to prioritize, and AdSense has not been cooperating. So as a result, video making has kinda taken a backseat. But making this one reminded me why I love making videos, and hopefully next one won't take as long. Anyway, like the video if you enjoyed it, thank you all so much for watching, and take care.